And let me spotlight you. Okay. Oh. Okay, here we go.
Yes.
Okay, so today's speaker is, I forgot,
Milena
Milena. I'll let you say your last name. Sorry, I forgot it.
Tanasijevic.
Okay.
Tanasijevic.
Okay, and she'll be presenting on remote language learning at HE is
Higher education.
high education level, a case study. So please enjoy the presentation.
Thank you very much. So I think we can start now, right? So yes, my name is Milena Tanasijevic and I come from Serbia. I teach at the Belgrade Metropolitan University. And as I was saying, this is a really great opportunity for me. And I'm very thankful to be able to address the audiences and the participants of the JALT International Conference 2020. What I'll be speaking about is our case and how we handled the remote language learning and teaching process at the university where I teach when the first lockdown in Serbia started and when we had to urgently move to online. So basically, this is what I'll be talking about. I'll give you just a very brief background information about the institution because there are some peculiarities about it. And then I will explain how we developed the curricula because the process of curriculum development is very specific and actually very strict. So we had a chance to actually go through the same curricula in 2 different cohorts. And we could actually explain how the assessment goes, what the research issues, questions, and analysis were. We will show you the data and sensitive conclusions at this stage because this is the initial stage of the research. So basically, Belgrade Metropolitan University is the first accredited higher education institution in Serbia for blended and distance learning. So distance learning has been happening at the university for quite some time now, since 2005. Our students primarily study information technologies, new media design, and management related courses. And we have always had a group of students who we call traditional or blended learners because they do attend classes in the classroom and then work on actual homework tasks and project work online and submit material online. But we have always had distance learners, students who have chosen to study online. And this is the case that has happened since 2005. Because of them, we have to have the curricula, all the courses, the entire syllabus prepared either by September in order to allow some time for our IT department, for the administrators to have the material checked and ready to be published by the beginning of the semester, which is the beginning of October. Or we have to prepare everything by December, early January, let's say, so that the IT department can work on the material and have it published on the e-learning platform by mid-February. So we work within defined teaching hours. And when I say 3 classes per week, it means for English and what we had in mind for this research. So we have 3 classes per week, 45-minute classes, and the semester consists of 15 weeks. So we have a total of 45-minute classes. And we do have 4 ECTS points for the course. And I'm not really sure if you're actually aware of what this actually means. This is the system of the European higher education, derived from the Bologna principles. And the higher education institutions in Europe allow students mobility. That's one of the central points of the Bologna Declaration. So students could spend as exchange students a semester abroad, a semester in at a different institution. So this number of ECTS points assigned for courses and the predictable curricula allows higher education institutions to simply match the curricula and see what is compatible, what is not compatible, and so on. So semesters usually cover 30 ECTS points. And if we have 4 ECTS points, it's roughly 3 to 4 hours a week work for the students on a particular course. So some courses carry 6 points, some 8 points, and this means that they're more serious and students have to work on them more. So we have 4 ECTS points, which allows us 3 to 4 hours a week with lectures and self-study. So the self-study time is around roughly 1.5 hours per week. And we have to quote the literature, prepare everything, prepare the entire course content, the actual lectures, how they run step by step. And we have to assign the self-study. We usually go for homework tasks, a presentation project, home reading assignment, and some self-study time, preparation for tests and assessment. I will be explaining this in greater detail. Once everything is checked and ready, because we have a very serious quality control of lectures, then our IT department can work through the materials and have them published on the e-learning system by October or February. This means that the students, especially the distance learners who actually enroll in the given year, when they open their course on the LAMS platform, they have the entire course content available and packed, all the 15 lectures. So, in terms of assessment, how we go through the semester is that we have continuous assessment, which is a total of 70 points awarded, and every course, every major has some kind of freedom and autonomy to decide how to distribute these 70 points. So what we as English lecturers have decided to go for are homework tasks, essay type of a task, around 250 to 300 words per task. And we have assigned 4 of those. Mind you, we have to be very careful how we assign these points and how we assign the workload of students, because we cannot exceed this number of, let's say, 15, 20 hours of self-study during the semester. So these homework tasks should not take up more than 30 to 40 minutes per average student. And they can actually give students up to 2 points. Then we have a midterm test, which is a serious test, which comes at what we call week 8, seriously the midterm out of 15 weeks. And there are 2 objectives here. The first objective would be to see how we all stand, both teachers and students, to see if we have had any problems with the course material till week 7. And also to kind of, the second objective would be to kind of prepare them for the actual exam task, because the midterm test and the final examination are pretty much similar in terms of structure. These are grammar and vocabulary tests primarily, because we actually try to assess all the skills throughout the semester. The homework tasks would obviously be some kind of an assessment or evaluation of the writing skill. The midterm test is some kind of a revision of grammar and vocabulary, and it can bring up to 20 points, which is quite a lot. We have the LC test, or the listening comprehension test, at the end of the course, so week 14 to 15. And this is a very classical monologue or a dialogue. The students can listen twice and then answer comprehension questions. We have a presentation project. This is a very serious project, and it can bring up to 12 points. This is a project where we work on building rhetoric skills and preparing students for public speaking. And we tend to have a multidisciplinary approach towards the oral presentation project. We work with colleagues from the other departments so that students can prepare projects for their actual majors and have them actually edited, proofread, and prepared in English. So for this year, we worked with the art history professor, and we developed very serious presentations of the Serbian and Byzantium medieval heritage, which was later on presented on the virtual gallery and the virtual exhibition. So it's there to stay. So this is a very valuable project for students to prepare PowerPoint slides, to prepare the projects, to practice speaking, to record themselves, and so on. We have what we call a seminar paper, which is actually a graded reader, because we do believe in extensive reading, and we tend to choose books which are available at the particular level. In this particular case, it is a B+ general to academic English. So we assign each group a book to read and some kind of work around the topic, some kind of writing about the topics of the book, plus an extended essay assignment at the end. And we have to allow up to 10 points for simply merit, for students to know how they stand. So merit points go for active participation at classes, actual submission of tasks, timely submission of tasks, and so on and so forth. So this is the total of 70 points, and there is a condition that students have to have at least 35. They can choose whatever they want to do out of all these. They don't have to do them all, but they have to have at least 35 points in semester tasks in order to qualify for the exam. The exams are always taken to university, even in these difficult circumstances with the travel restrictions and everything. Actually, the Serbian law of higher education does not allow online exams at present. So the final exam is a total of 30 points. And what happens is that we have to actually sum up, add the numbers. So we have semester points plus exam points equals a mark. And there is another very important condition that students must have at least 15 points at the exam in order to have passed the exam. So if you have like 40, 50 of the semester tasks and 10 exam points, this is really not enough. You have to meet both conditions. And this has always been like this. So what happened this year is that in the spring semester, what we call spring semester of 2019-2020, we had to transition from classroom to online. So all the students who were studying at the university had to be moved to online teaching due to the lockdown and the entire situation. So obviously, some of the questions that came to mind and were a cause of concern for a certain period of time were if the students will complete less of the semester tasks now that they study from home, now that we don't know what's going on with their environments, where they are, what they do. And another question, which was also a slight of a bit worrisome, was if the number of students who have managed to pass the exam would decrease. You just don't know. In those very difficult circumstances when the lockdown started, it took us around a week to regroup and to find the right platform for streaming lectures. Actually, what we do now, the same Zoom type of environment, but still you just don't know what's going to happen. And here is what I was looking at actually. I had a student in cohort in the previous year, in 2018, 2019, which I called control group, and I had a cohort of this year, which I had to call experimental group, because this is when one of the variable changes. So we are not in the classroom and we do not meet face to face. And I wanted to check if anything actually changed for the students and their participation. My worry was actually put into the first hypothesis, which is tentative. Students from the experimental group have completed less semester tasks. And the second one, the percentage of students who have managed to pass the exam from the experimental group is smaller than the percentage of students who have managed to pass the exam in the previous year. So this is the complete same curricula. Everything is the same, other than the actual teaching which goes through Zoom. And now I will show you the data. So as I said, we assign homework tasks. I would like to explain. So here we have the number. We have 4 different homework tasks. They're actually assigned at different times during the semester. And we have here the number of students, which is probably not what matters most, but the percentage. And you can see the percentages, like the first one towards the second one. So this is the control group when everything was in the classroom. And this is the experimental group this year when we had to go to Zoom and study everything online. The percentage shows a slight difference, if you can see. Right, so the drop is there, but I wouldn't be very much worried about it. Here, it's almost non-existent. This is towards the end of the semester when we generally feel fatigue and students are really not that much eager to do tasks which would bring them up to 2 points because they are already working so much on other projects and the deadlines are approaching. So here we had a higher percentage of students. So these numbers alone are different here at the beginning, and I would not be too worried about this because this was only the beginning and the differences are, I dare say, not that high. Even though there are less students from the experimental group who actually had done and submitted the tasks, the quality of their tasks is better. to a slight degree. So here we have the average number of points scored per task out of 2 points. So maybe less students participated, but they did better. And throughout the semester, the same situation appears. This is the midterm test. Here we had a slight worry. Sorry about this. This is 77.85%. And here we have a slighter number, 75.88%. So what happened here is that we also have a little bit higher result, but this is still not a very high average out of 20, I would say, because here we had worries because this was also an remote testing, online testing. There's always a concern if they're really working on the test individually, alone, maybe some sort of cheating might take place. This is the general worry. But the test was actually on the learning platform, and it was really a very, very serious database. So if students have to like answer 4 questions, we had prepared 100 questions. The system randomizes the questions, so there are very few chances if 2 students would get the same question, and there was a time constraint, a time limit, how long they could actually spend online to do the test. So basically, I think that these results, 1503, were pretty much within what we expected and what we got at the exams, which I will show you later on. Then we had listening comprehension test. This is the final assignment, and there is always a drop in numbers of students who participate because the exams are approaching and they're working on something else, unfortunately. So if we take a look at the previous percentage, 75% or 77% in both cohorts, this number has significantly dropped. So I wouldn't say that this is due to the COVID or anything. And the results are somewhat above 4 out of 5, which is still possibly not that worrisome. The presentation was really serious. So here we have a serious drop, I would say, 16.39% to 55.70. These results need to be, again, interpreted very, very carefully in terms of statistics. But even with these descriptive statistics, we can see that there is a drop, and the results, again, the results of the students who had attempted the task and had prepared the task, participated, are still better. So 1059 against 1095. And the paper, the book paper, extensive reading paper, we still have at least 3% of the students in the experimental group less participating, but the results are pretty much okay, 13 point something out of 15. What happened at the end with the merit? So this is actually very important to me, because this is when we actually say, okay, these people did most of the work, these people deserve points, and in this year we had slightly less of them, but those who did work well, they scored higher. And here I'm very careful what to say about this. This level of participation might have been due to whatever other circumstances were around the students, not the teaching method per se. So this was a very difficult time when many families were struggling with the COVID, obviously, and there was the lockdown. Elderly people, 75 plus people, were not allowed to leave their houses. So young people were actually working around, helping, and so on. So I think that the result, the number of points shows that they had tried their best. And this is the exams. The exams are very important because this was the first time when we actually saw the students come at the university and take the exam at the institution. So no cheating, nothing online. And let's see what had happened. This is the experimental group. This is the control group. So the data for June, as we say, June A and June B, this is the first exam period that will allow after the semester had ended. So this means that this number of people, 59.70% of students in the generation, in the cohort, had enough points to participate and take the exam. The previous generation did much less. Number of students who passed, 176 out of 200, or 70 out of 82. So here are the percentages of students who passed the exam. Number of points scored out of 30. Okay, pretty much there. And average mark per period, pretty much the same. So basically we have September and October, which were additional exam periods when people can qualify. If they hadn't qualified for the June one, they could keep going and qualify for September or October. And this is what we see. So I was very careful when drawing the conclusions. And I have to say that this statistics has shown what happened. It doesn't show why it had happened. So I think that this research now has to be taken to the next stage when we would conduct deep interviews and try to get to the bottom of the students' experience and what they have to say about moving to actually learning languages online. So my conclusions are very tentative here. Students from the experimental group have completed less semester tasks. This is obvious, but their tasks were stronger in terms of contents and grammar vocabulary accuracy. And the percentage of students who have managed to pass the exam from the experimental group is higher than the percentage of students who have managed to pass the exam from the control group. So yes, less students studied and participated to a slight degree, not a worrying number, but those who studied, they did better. Here I have some of the references, and I would like to thank you for your attention. Thank you for listening, and this is my email if you want to get in touch.
Oh,
okay.
Thank you very much. And can we have some applause for Milena? And
thank you.
And we open the floor to questions. Paul Bofe asked a question, are there any peer evaluations?
Peer evaluations among students or among staff, faculty?
Probably among students. Paul, would you like to unmute yourself and ask?
Okay, I see that now
students.
this seems to be a pattern. Yes, I'm listening, sorry.
Among students on their presentations.
Oh, there was no room to organize it that way this time because this was the second course and this is still a preparatory course like academic English, but there is peer evaluation at the course that I teach now, which is English 3, when they're, let's say, older and more mature. And I can actually check against the previous generation and see what had happened there. So this is the English 2 course, which we call English 2, which is in the spring semester. And now that we go to English 3, this is ESP, English for Specific Purposes. And here we do conduct a peer evaluation. And why I asked if you had asked about the faculty, we do have peer evaluation of the course contents and the curriculum, which is ridiculously long, time consuming. This is probably the most time consuming part of my job. So once the semester starts and we start teaching, it's like, okay, now it's fine. Now we go on holiday, because we do have to actually really control the input that we provide, not to overburden students, to pay attention of the workload that we assign, to pay attention to the content. And this is a very, very serious peer evaluation, which is very objective and very positive. So whenever they find something to say, like my colleagues or somebody, we do actually work together towards improving it. And there was a time when I thought that this was really time consuming and not necessary, but I can tell because I have spent some years now teaching at a university that the course contents and the curricula have actually improved to a great degree because of that.
Well, thank you for that clarification. I appreciate the workload and your attention to the workload that you're assigning to your students,
this
as
is very
well
important,
as the workload
yes.
to yourselves.
Yeah, this is very important because if we assign quite a lot, I mean, people would not simply achieve, and we would not have students who can qualify for exams. What's the point? I mean, you have to be very careful how you assign the workload, because the point is that we have to be actually very mindful of what they have to do, how long it takes an average student. Obviously, some who struggle would need more time. And we also be very careful about actually allowing them some breathing room. According to the European higher education system, they have the right to take up some part-time jobs of around 20 hours per week if they need to support themselves. So studying is not the sole priority, I guess.
May I just jump in there?
Yes.
I'd like to say that this is one of the things that many of my students have said since the onset of online learning in Japan. One of the problems is that the students are inundated with assignments, and
That's true, yes.
it seems as though teachers, well, there's no real discussion between teachers of different faculties or among the teachers who are teaching the same students as how much we are giving the students. Everybody is just using their own imagination. So
Yes.
so it's very interesting to see that the system has a built-in stop for the amount of work you give the students.
Yeah, I have to be honest, yes, this is within the Bologna Declaration, so institutions who have been accredited in the European system of higher education would follow this principle, but I'm not really sure if they honestly do. There is some worry that they just put up the number there and then they do what they feel is right for their courses. But if you have quality control and someone to stop you at the institution where you work, then it works very well. And yes, I see some comment here. Yes, they're transferable because you can study, for example, IT in Belgrade for 6 semesters and spend the final year we have students who go to Sweden and complete the final year there, and the programs are matched and compared, and we see what they have to actually probably take as an exam when they come back before graduation, if something was actually missing or they had chosen something different from the electives there, which is fine, but then you have another exam here and so on, and it makes it easy to keep track of everyone's education. So BA studies, bachelor studies, they are usually 180 points if they last for 3 years, or 240 if they're 4-year studies. And then the masters are either 60 points. If you had completed 180, you would follow a master's of 120, 2 years masters. Or if you had bachelor studies with 240 points, you would pursue a master's degree of 60. So either way, bachelor's plus master's would be 300 points or 5 years.
I see.
And it's not that difficult to compare and match and see how we stand. And it's easy to conduct projects among the institutions and to see if there could be some collaboration. I think that this is a very valid idea. My course, for example, is 4 ECTS points because this is a supporting subject, a supporting course. Teaching them English is not really what they will do. I don't teach English students or English teachers to be. I teach engineers and designers and managers, so they need to speak English, but this is not the core of their study program. And they have obviously courses with 8 ECTS, and these courses would actually ask for much more from them to do during the course. So I think that whoever thought of this is a very good idea. And I see a question about additional languages. No, we teach students English as a foreign language, but students actually study in Serbian for now. So the courses are in their mother tongue.
Okay, thank you for that answer too. I was concerned because for my first year speaking and listening courses, I had to do as you did, put the syllabuses up months and months in advance of the COVID pandemic, and had to correct them for the listening and speaking courses in particular to say that you will have to do much more reading than I predicted in the syllabus.
True.
Okay, actually, we have come to the kind of the end of our time here. Thank you very much. It was a very interesting presentation about. I knew very little about the European universities and how you can share credits across universities. It was fascinating for me. And
thank you.
I'm glad. I look forward to hearing more about your research in the future. And I hope you get a chance to come to Japan once. So thank you.
Oh, yes, I would very much love that. Yes, I will follow the work of the JALT Association closely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.